love the Lord your God with all your heart,
Love
mind,
God.
soul, and strength,
Love people.
and love your neighbor.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, that's your framework, right?
Yeah.
So, this is like, I'm going to set that before me, and then I'm going to attack this problem through that lens. And I'm going to move as slow as I can to ensure that I'm, doing the best job that I can. And God, again, has been so faithful to us in that regard.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think that's a great bit there you said about, problems take time to develop. They take time to solve. And I think that it's so often, like you were saying, like about the generational thing, it's like instant gratification.
Sure.
Instant, okay, I can just go scroll social media and take my mind off of it, where it's like, okay, no, I actually sit down, like you said, evaluate the problem, evaluate possible solutions, and then move forward slowly. We got about 5-10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Per se. Okay. See if we can get like 1 or 2 more questions in here. Alrighty. Okay, here's a good one. How do you balance work and personal life as an entrepreneur?
That's such a good question, dude. I'm so glad you asked that question. Man, so I'm gonna answer that question by asking a question. Have you ever, and I'm sure you have, heard the phrase work-life balance?
Yes.
Okay, it's a very popular idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Which goes to the heart of what you're asking.
Yeah.
So you could say to me, you ask me the question, I could say, oh, simple, work-life balance.
Yeah.
I just am a master at work-life balance. That's how I balance it. I magically can balance my, sometimes 80 hours a week work schedule
Right.
with everything I have to do as a husband, as a father, as a churchman.
Yeah.
It's, and by the way, in that, there's also, I coach, right? My kids' sports.
What do they do? Soccer?
Yeah,
Okay.
a whole bunch.
Okay,
Football,
awesome.
baseball, soccer. So like one son's in football, one son's in baseball, daughter's in soccer.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so it's like, there are not enough hours in the day, period, dude.
Yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, you have like there's priority structure too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, yeah, as a provider, which God calls me to be, that's a priority. I have to provide for my family. As a husband, right, to my wife, like number one in my life, like before everything else, it's shepherding her heart, shepherding my children's heart, shepherding my company, and then incorporating church into that and what that looks like, right? And so
Right.
even when it comes to roles of leading and participating in ministries and teaching, and so and the reason I start with that whole notion of work-life balance is because that's a farce. That's a lie from the pit of hell, work-life balance, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no such thing. There's no such thing. If you want work-life balance, be mediocre. Just go find a job where you can be that 8-hour-a-day guy.
Yep. Yeah.
Be satisfied with whatever earning potential you have there.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And for some people, that's what they want, dude.
Yeah.
They are completely satisfied with that type of life, and more power to them, because for them it's like, hey, I work is work. I want to have a life.
Yeah.
Like all the other things I just described, I want to have that. But then for those of us that want more than that, you're not going to have work-life balance. What you're going to have is this. You're going to have seasons. And that's the biblical perspective. Life is seasonal, right? There's a time for everything. And so, if you're going to endeavor to start your own, this is why you're ahead of the game, dude. And I don't say that to feed your pride and to flatter you for the sake of flattery. I say it because it's true, right? Flattery is a sin.
Yeah.
But you're ahead of the game because you're already thinking about these things. You're already endeavoring. You're trying to find that thing, right? You're not just like, hey, where's the next party? Hey, how am I going to fill my mind with a bunch of nonsense because I want to be entertained?
Right.
And so that's good, dude. Because right now you have more time than you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
Right? You have gotten past the point of being a child.
Yeah.
Right? You've moved into the area of life of being a young man.
Yeah.
And the next phase of your life will be marriage, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm talking general broad phases of life. And so
Right.
children. Well, from that time of being a child into that time of being a young man, and then into where you're at right now, you have as much freedom as you're ever going to have. You know, when you move into that next phase of life, you will be restricted. You'll be restricted by your career. You'll be restricted by, and that's not a bad thing. These are good things, right? These are good restrictions. You'll be restricted by what it is to shepherd a wife, and then ultimately, if God would allow, to have children as well. And then, you know, if you desire to continue to pursue entrepreneurship, to be running a business of your own, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, now is the time to use the time, because you have a bunch of it. Right, and to be disciplined with it, and to be diligent with it. You know, in Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership, chapter 12 is called Freedom Through Discipline, and it's the truth, dude. Yeah. That's freedom does come through discipline, right? It comes through disciplining yourself, right, in those seasons of hard work and of maximum effort, to then create a season, if God would allow, of more of a relaxed phase, so to speak. Now, work never ends. This is, again, fundamentally a biblical principle. We are made to work.
Right.
We find the greatest satisfaction in work, in that sense, right?
Yeah.
This is how God has made us. And so what I would tell you is there's no work-life balance. What there is this. There is determining what you're going to do, and then there is striving as hard as you can by the mercy of God to achieve it. And then when you start to bring a wife and children into that mix, there's shepherding them to understand those seasons along with you. Yeah. And to find balance in that. And then also, right, this ties back into your last question, which is problem solving. Like, you will inevitably face challenges, a problem in how to balance life and work. Yeah. And that's when you bring in your team of counselors and you say, hey, this is what I'm running into. You have older men as part of that. What have you ran through in life? What would you suggest? And it's like, well, you want to create time in your day, get up earlier, quite frankly. Start at 4 a.m. Get in the habit of starting early. Yeah. And, like, fundamentally as a Christian, you need to study your Bible. You need to read your Bible. You need to pray. That shapes your life. Yeah. That shapes your mind. It shapes your heart. And if you don't have enough time in the day to do that, well, start earlier. Yeah. Just be disciplined, get up early, and make that happen, right? You want to work on things before you have to get into the throes of your day without everybody impeding upon your schedule. Start early. Work late, and so yeah, don't fall into the lie of this whole idea of work-life balance. Realize the reality of it is if you want to achieve greatness at whatever level, let's just say beyond the norm, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be really hard, and there won't be a lot of balance. There will be times of serious focus with an outweighed amount spent on the thing you're trying to achieve. Yeah. And then eventually getting to plateaus where you have a bit of stability. You can look back, you can balance that out, and you can say, okay, cool, this is where we've gone, this is what we've done, we've put this thing together. I've now created, through discipline, more freedom in my life in that sense. And then asking yourself, do I want to go to the next level, or am I cool with this? Yeah. I mean, in my company, I could tell you, like, I could stabilize at 4 guys really well and make a really good living. Putting 4 guys in the field and just managing them by myself. Yeah. But if I want to add the next 4 and the next 4, that's going to take growth in infrastructure. So when I got to 4 guys, I was at that place. Okay, here's what I could do. I could stop here. I could be fine with, a good salary a year, or I can ramp it up again and go for the next level. Yeah. So then we stabilize for a while. We have that balance. We reflect. We look at it. And for me, it's like, I want to go again. Yeah. Shepherd my wife through this next phase. This is what it's going to look like. Are you okay? As long as she's good, then we go. Awesome. And we hit it again. And then we get to that next level and we say, so like when we started Florida, it's like, do we want to just balance out with Colorado, keep that thing running and not open the next one, or do we want to go again? Yeah. Right? And so that's, so that's how I approach it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, we got to wrap up for now. Thank you much for coming on. Yeah, it was a real pleasure. I appreciate your time and insight into all these things, and yeah, definitely. I think it'd be good to have a second, a part 2 for this.
I'd love it.
Follow up.
I hope everything was helpful.
Absolutely.
All right, bro. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
And thank you to our listeners for listening. You can find us on Instagram under the Neon Camouflage Podcast. Also, if you want to head over to Web Western, that is our partner for this episode, and put in the code SOUNDTRAK, that's SOUNDTRAK, and you'll get 10% off on any of your orders. They got some real awesome hats, shirts, and other things coming out. And they actually are dropping their fishing series within the next month. So head on over to webwestern.com and get yourself some sweet merch. Until next time, thank you for listening.